Lutsk, Western Ukraine, 2000 year. Regional Scientific Library. I, as a first-year student of the Faculty of History, came to work in the library for the first time. A Russian-speaking employee meets me in the word court. In the catalog, they speak to me in Russian. In the reading rooms, the library, employees communicate, what do you think? Mainly in Russian. 2000 years. 10 years of independence of Ukraine. Why is the main language of communication of employees in the cultures institution of Ukrainian Russian? There are the consequence of the aggressive policy of Russification, of the aggressive which was implemented in the USSR, both in Ukraine and in Latvia. Russian became the language of international communication in the USSR, forced or voluntary resettlement of Ukrainians to purely Russian lands, to the FANOS, to non-Russian republic, and relocation of the population there to Ukraine was used for this purpose. Interesting fact. In 1970, over 1,000 Ukrainians lived in the Baltic republics, and 23,000 Lithuanians, Latvians, and Estonians lived in the Ukrainian SSR. All these people could get along with their sorrows only with the help of the Russian language. Educational institution became the main focus of Russification. 1962 year. Poet Vasil Stus writes in a letter to the famous poet Andrei Malishko, Donetsk is a purely Russian, or almost purely Russian city. Now I study my native language in Horlivka, in a Russian school, of course. There are several, 2-3 Ukrainian schools in Horlivka, which do not last very long. There are no such people in Donetsk, it seems. We have no future. The roots of the nation are only in the village, and will not live long as a Persian people remembering the influence of the city, the army, and all other channels of Russification. In the Donbass, if only, to read Ukrainian in a Russian school is an absurdity. You have to have some kind of moral trauma to do that. I would like to add that Horlivka, Donetsk region, has been a temporarily occupied territory since 2014. In 1959, the Verkhovna Rada of the Ukrainian SSR adopted the law on strengthening the connecting between school and life, and on the further development of the public education system in the Ukrainian SSR. It almost completely repeated the All Union one, but also had certain peculiarities. In particular, Article 9 reads, education in Ukrainian SSR schools is conducted in the students' native language. Parents decide which language to send their children to. Almost immediately, the number of Ukrainian schools began to rapidly decrease. At that time, Russian already dominated higher education and social life. Graduates of Ukrainian-speaking school frankly lost in competition to graduates of Russian-speaking schools. At the time of the adoption of the law, there there were 25,000 Ukrainian language schools, and only 4,000 Russian language schools operated in the Ukrainian SSR. That is 6.5 times less. But in reality, everything was not so rosy. Ukrainian school had 3.5 million students. Ukrainian school had 3.5 million students. Russian schools had 1.5 million. That is, the difference is only a little more than twice as much. The digital phenomenon can be easily explained. Small rural schools remained mainly Ukrainian-speaking. Instead, large schools in large cities were completely Russian-speaking. For example, in the city of Stalino, now Donetsk, 98% of students 98% of students studying in Russian school. In Kharkiv and Odessa, 18% Even in the capital, in Kyiv, almost two sets of students studied in Russian. After giving parents the right to choose the language of instruction, the number of Russian schools began to grow rapidly. Cases of a demonstrative boycott of the Ukrainian language by graduates of higher educational institutions in the eastern region in the Ukrainian SSR have become more frequent. So, for example, the head of the Stanislav, now Ivano-Frankivsk region, it is West Ukraine, federal, at the Republic meeting of the Public Education Works in August 1960, campaigning 1 year after law, campaign about the lack of teacher criticized the Ministry of Education of the Republic, which sent 26 graduates of the Kharkiv State University to the region. Instead, only 5 students appeared after the referral who categorically said, "We don't know the Ukrainian language. We cannot read in the Ukrainian language. We only study the Russian language." Formally, they showed up at the place of assignment, but never studied work. In 1978, the Council of Ministers of the Ukrainian SSR adopted a resolution of measure to further improve the study and teaching of the Russian language in the Ukrainian SSR. According to it, expeditors on the promotion of the Russian language, on the technical support of Russian language classrooms, departments in universities, increasing the number and quality of teachers studying the Russian language in Ukrainian school from the first grade and etc., were significantly increased. Another key point in the Russification of school in the adoption of the basic of the legislation of the SSR and the Union Republic on Ukrainian education. In particular, this document established the freedom to choose the language of instruction already at the all-union level. And the icing on the cake is a new Brezhnev constitution. If the Stalinist constitution guaranteed education in school in the mother language, the Brezhnev constitution, only promised the possibility of education in the mother language. What was the situation with the teaching of the Ukrainian language at the beginning of the independence of Ukraine? And are there parallels with the currently temporarily captured territories of Ukraine? The share of students of school with the Ukrainian language of instruction in the 1991-1992 academic year. The Autonomous Republic of Crimea where there were no Ukrainian language school at all in the 1991-1992, has been temporarily occupied in its since 2014. Donetsk and the Luhansk region were less than 10% of students in school with the Ukrainian language of instruction in the this academic year have been temporarily occupied since 2014. The rest of the region immediately more than 20%. The reaction to the Russification policy was the movement of dissidents, the 60s, who, despite all kinds of government, managed to create and self-publish a number of important journalists and scientific works. As one of the 60s, Ivan Dzyuba said, the 60s were united by the evidences of the tragic situation of the Ukrainian language. Demands were expressed to conduct education in Ukraine in all higher and secondary special schools and education in all preschool institutions, to transfer to Ukrainian record-keeping in institutions and enterprises, railways, trade, and to increase the number of publications of the Academy of Science of the Ukrainian SSR, universities, as well as Ukrainian films. Ukrainian literature critic Ivan Dzyuba, in his books Internationalism or Russification, in 1965, he critically, but from a Marxist standpoint, analyzed the national and cultural policy of the Soviet government in Ukraine. As a result, Ivan Dzyuba lost his job. He was expelled from the Union of Writers of Ukraine, and in 1972, Ivan Dzyuba was imprisoned for 18 months. The Commission decision, after reviewing the work Internationalism or Russification, came to the conclusion that the material, the books prepared by Dzyuba, is from beginning to end a pasquil on Soviet reality, on the national policy in the USSR and the practice of communist construction. In modern Ukraine, with the help of propaganda and a typical problem of discrimination against the Russian-speaking population was created and improved. This became the reason for the hybrid war in Ukraine since 2014 and a full-scale invasion in 2022 by the Russian Federation. The aggressor made a bet on linguistic commonality with Russia, and Russian propaganda clearly fell on prepared ground. Since the independent states that were formerly part of the Soviet Union have a huge number of Russian-speaking citizens and have become to target of an information war campaign. In the first months of the war, the mobile application Lingvocid appeared in Ukraine. It is a memorial to the Russification of Ukraine. The program is designed to show the scale of the culture colonization policy carried out by Russia on the territory of Ukraine. The Lingvocid project consists of a series of graphic boards placed in the center of Kyiv and a mobile application that connects them. Program available for App Store and Google Play. You can collect location, read description of each of the provision, and also find excursion routes and audio accompaniment to them. In conclusion, a vivid example from almost a century of history that language is important, and the Ukrainian language is also a weapon in the modern Russian-Ukrainian war. 1932 year. Report to the head of the secret and political department about the closed screening of the first sound film by Ukrainian director Alexander Dovzhenko, film Ivan. The text of the film is in Ukrainian, so it was inaccessible to be in its main part. The moment of recruiting labor in the village for Dniprobud and the most important moments from the narration by the hero of the film Ivan. That's why I cannot confidently give a final assessment. Thank you thank you.
Laiks 10 minūtes jautājumiem, komentāriem, un mums ir arī pagodinājusi Ukrainas vēstniecības darbiniece Viktorija Prituļaka, kura tulkos latviski.
Якщо говорити за перепис населення, навіть останні 89-го року, то так, на Східній Україні українців було, вони чисельно переважали росіян, але якщо порівнювати кількість, 89-й.
Tad Ihors nokomentēja, ja mēs paņemsim to uzskaitījumu, cik etnisko ukraiņu bija tieši Austrumu Ukraina, tad 89. gadā ukraiņu tur bija mazāk.
Але якщо порівнювати кількість українців за національністю Західна і Східна Україна, то очевидно, що на Сході їх було менше.
Bet, ja tomēr salīdzināt rietumu daļu un austrumu daļu, tad loģiski, ka rietumu Ukrainā pēc skaita etnisko ukraiņu bija daudz vairāk.
Це було зумовлено тим, що східна частина України була більший термін під окупацією Радянського Союзу, ніж та сама Західна Україна.
Tas ir saistīts ar to, ka Ukrainas austrumu daļa ilgāk bija okupēta Padomju Savienības.
Тому українців більше винищували. Це був Голодомор, депортації, той самий великий терор 30-х років.
Tādēļ Ukraiņi vairāk tika iznīcināti tajā daļā to pašu Holodomoru, ņemām vērā arī liela teroru un arī deportācijas.
І, відповідно, на Східну Україну приїжджали люди з інших регіонів. І добровільно, і частково примусово.
Tādēļ uz Ukrainas austrumiem tika atbrauc cilvēki no citiem reģioniem, gan brīvprātīgi, gan arī piespiedu.
Плюс варто відзначити, що на східній частині України не було організованого і масового партизанського повстанського руху.
Kā arī Ukrainas austrumos nebija tik aktīva partizānu un pretošanas kustība, kā rietumu daļā.
Тому політика русифікації на східних регіонах проходила значно швидше і давала для Москви кращі результати.
Tādēļ Ukrainas austrumos rusifikācijas politika tika īstenota daudz ātrāk un devusi arī lielākus rezultātus Maskavai.
Dear colleagues, thank you very much for your presentation. I have one question considering the 1960s. You showed also the information in your presentation about situation in 1960s, about Ivan Дзюба. And is it correct that we have heard also from the historiography, not Russian, but Western historiography, that during the 1960s the situation was slightly different from the 70s in the Ukraine? Because the first secretary of Ukrainian Communist Party, Petro Shelest, was still in power. And then after he was dismissed in the early 1970s, the things get worse. Is it correct from the historical point of view? Дякую.
Знаєте, ми досі часом, як працювала політика, визначаємо за першими особами держави.
Mēs joprojām varam uzskatīt, ka to faktu, kā ir nostrādājusi politika, mēs varam secināt pēc tā, ka ir strādājusi valsts vadība.
І в Радянський Союз політика русифікації дуже залежала від того, хто очолював комуністичну партію в Українській СРСР.
Tādēļ arī rusifikācijas politika tika saistīta ar to, kas ir vadījis komunistisko partiju tajā Ukrainas padomju republikā.
Якщо Шелест, його звинувачували частково в підтримці українізації, коренізації, і він намагався, якщо можна так говорити, не те, щоб захистити, але хоча б не так знущатися з української мови.
Un Šelēsts tika apsūdzēts tiešām, ka viņš ļoti atbalstījis ukrainizācijas politiku, koreņizācijas, tā saucamo politiku, bet īstenībā viņš mēģināja panākt to, lai netik drastiski tika iznecināts viss, kas saistīts ar Ukrainu un ukraiņu valodu.
То його наступник Щербицький був дуже активним русифікатором, і, власне, в його період почався дуже активний наступ на шестидесятників.
Un tādējādi Šerbickis, kas bija pēc viņa, bija tieši otrādi ļoti aktīvs rusifikācijas atbalstītājs, un tādējādi visus tos darbiniekus, kultūras pārstāvjus, rakstniekus, kas strādājuši 60. gados, mēģināja pilnīgi iznicināt.
І українські історики схиляються до думки, що саме 70-ті роки були найбільш, якщо після Другої світової війни, 70-ті роки якраз був найбільшим періодом спроби русифікувати Україну.
Tad Ukrainas vēsturnieki uzskata, ka tieši 70. gadi bija tie, kad visvairāk mēģināja rusificēt Ukrainu pēc Otra pasaules kara.
Labi. Ukrainas politieslodzītie bija ārkārtīgi daudz Padomju Savienības Gulaga nometnēs. Viņa viena daļa, viņi cīnījās par politiskām tiesībām, citi skatījās plašāk cilvēktiesībām, arī par Ukrainas tiesībām kā valsts. Bet man ir jautājums, jūs minējāt divus, kas cīnījās par Ukrainas valodu. Varbūt pieminiet vēl citus. Es domāju, ka tādi bija arī starp tiem, ko pazina arī latviešu disidenti, kas bija ieslodzīti Gulaga nometnēs. Tad tas mums būtu ļoti interesanti.
Насправді, якщо згадувати всіх політичних в'язнів, то це ми можемо згадувати всю конференцію, і ми не повторимо жодного прізвища.
Ihors pieminēja, ka ja tagad atcerētos un pieminētu visus politieslodzītus, tad nepietiek to laiku, visas šīs dienas laiks, lai viņus visus atcerētu.
В презентації було згадано двох шестидесятників. Дзюба, який написав, власне, книгу «Інтернаціоналізм і русифікація»,
Prezentācijā
і
tika
Стус.
minēti divi tie aktivisti, Dzuba un Stūs, kas tie aktīvi 60. gados aizstāvēja Ukrainas valodas tiesības.
І цей лист Стуса до Малишка, який теж був в презентації, він був написаний ще за 3 роки до книги Дзюби. І насправді ще цей лист міг стати таким маніфестом проти русифікації.
Un prezentācijā norādīta vēstule, kur uzrakstīja Stūs Malīško rakstniekam, uzrakstīta vēl pirms 3 gadiem, pirms Dzuba uzrakstīja savu grāmatu, un to var uzskatīt par savu ziņu Ukrainas valodas aizstāvēšanas manifestu.
І, власне, Стус серед усіх шестидесятників був чи не найбільшим захисником української мови.
Un tieši Stūsu var uzskatīt par 60. gadu rakstnieku visaktīvāko Ukrainas valodas aizsargu un aizstāvu.
І якщо в Стуса проблем зі здоров'ям не було, то й зробили все так, щоб він помер в перському, як там було написано в презентації, в перському концтаборі.
Bet ņemot vērā, ka Stūsam nebija nekādu veselības problēmu, tad nometne izdarīja speciāli visu tā, lai viņš tur aizietu bojā.
Це радянська влада, власне, якраз найбільш активно знищувала тих, хто мав сміливість публічно і відкрито захищати українську мову.
Padomju vārā iznīcināja visus tos, kam bija drosme publiski aizstāvēt ukraiņu valodu. Це останнє питання.
Okay.
Paldies.
Thank you.